Alright, where's it? There we go. Get the shit out of here. Hey guys, Brass Facts here. The TRAAPs from, well, the US military, whatever, has been kind of doing the rounds recently as the definitive go-to budget chest rig. At $50 and up to 10 magazines carried, it's a really good deal. By the way, flies with amplified hearing are actually just the worst. When Trex Arms released, well, the TRAAP, the Trex Arms assault panel.
Hold up, isn't that just Trex Arms assault panel? The Trex Arms is redundant? No, okay, whatever.
People lost their mind, mostly because every time Lucas from Trex Arms does, well, frankly, anything, everyone has to lose their mind. It's a tradition at this point. Who am I to say going against tradition? But mostly because it's $240. The TRAAP, despite its name, does not give you Thai boy sexual favors. So how the hell can Trex Arms justify the $240 price tag when a regular TAPS cost, what, $50 at most? And if you would be better off buying, well, frankly, anything else, but mostly just the TAPS. Speaking of the TAPS, a word from our sponsor. So yeah, Venture Surplus is the sponsor of the channel. They sell surplus gear, like this TAPS gear that we're gonna be talking about for quite a lot of this video. You probably can't hear me because it's windy as balls and we're gonna get rain for the first time in 3 months that I happen to be recording a section out here. Anyways, when you head over to Venture Surplus, you're going to buy your TAPS rig, probably. I don't know. They seem to be selling pretty well. And you're going to be like, well, you want to buy pouches for your gear. So in this case, you can buy this large GP pouch, which seems to be a pretty good fit. I also have pouches here on the side, you know, general purpose pouches. They're canteen pouches, but they actually work surprisingly well for general purpose-ish stuff. We got a TQ and then speed reload pouches. And it doesn't need to just be for TAPS gears. The wonderful thing about PAL webbing, you know, Molly webbing, is that, well, it kind of works on all the gear. So you may, like me, find out that you don't really like a certain pouch configuration and you want to try other pouches. And that can become very expensive very quickly. So you might as well just buy the same damn pouches that have a little bit of extra salt on it so your friends actually believe you when you say you go out and shoot. Buy them from Venture Surplus, slap them on your gear, play musical chairs, and all the things we love to partake in here in the good old US of A.
Disclaimer time! Venture Surplus sells the TAPS rig, and this video is going to talk about the TAPS rig, so keep that in mind. Conflict of interest, though technically I think I shit on the TAPS rig a lot during this video, so I guess I'm covered there. Secondly, Trex Arms sent me the TRAAPs to go check out. Kind of unsolicited, no expectation of reviews, but what's up? Here we are. If you want to go straight into the video, by the way, I get a little carried away and don't shut up. Go to 6:45 and you can kind of skip all of this intro bit. Back to that question, why this when the TAPS is like $50? Right at the get-go, this is just a false dichotomy, right? The TRAAP is new and the TAP is used or surplus. Simply put, there's not a single piece of new kit that can compete with cost on surplus or used kit. It has always been that way, and it will continue to be that way, short of Grand Thumb selling you his sweat-stained gear for a 300% markup or something. It's the same deal with Comtacs. People have it in their mind that Comtacs are $300 to $400 headsets, and thus $1,000 for Ops Core amps are stupid and overpriced. Meanwhile, forgetting that those Comtacs fell off of a military truck somewhere, and new ones basically cost the same amount as Ops Core amps. That being said, while it's understandable that new American-made products can't compete with Chinese or gray market, we live in the real world where we pay for this out of our rapidly dwindling pocket. So principle aside, if the performance is the same, why go with the more expensive version of it? Well, that's how we get into the second part. Despite all of its upsides, there are some major issues with this thing leaning into its heritage as something that can both work as a chest rig and over armor. I've covered this before, so we'll thunder run it. The TAPS is 6 magazines wide, with 2 extra pouches on the side which can further accommodate another 2 more magazines per pouch. It is horrifically large, to the point of, unless you're on your second big gulp of the day right now at lunch, you're probably not going to have the prerequisite body circumference not to have this thing buckle on you once mags start getting removed. The harness system is horrifically bad and uncomfortable, and it's so thin it tends to bind up. There's a huge metal buckle on the back because fuck you, and that creates hotspots with packs all the time. A new harness spikes the price anywhere from about $20 to $70. And then you add in the actual buckle on the rear, and we're pushing maybe close to $100 for the entire package, give or take. So yeah, still absolutely a budget rig with a lot of capability, but consider that we're tickling the balls of the price of a lot of other competing new options.
Old man brass facts. Oh. That being said, there's a lot of features on the TAAP's rig that are kind of appealing. So even though you can go out and buy other things similar to it, it's not the same thing. For example, these Mac pouches are very convenient, so I can reach in here and read the rest of my script. There's secondary pouches over here that we can put things into. Of course, there is just more PALS webbing than you can possibly use, even though I have this thing entirely rigged up with different pouches, which is okay. You don't have to fill up all your pouches all the time, right? Sometimes you're allowed to leave pouches empty, and in fact, you should practice having pouches empty. It is more convenient than you think when you're out in the field to have empty pouches to put stuff into. Similarly, all the mag pouches themselves are fairly oversized, such that in a pinch, you can put 308 magazines, you can put 5.56, you can put AK magazines in, and for your 5.56 mags, they kind of rock in a little nicer. That's kind of in contrast to a lot of the modern gear, like my Vel System Hybrid, my beloved, which has very tight panels, so much so that I can barely use Gen 3 PMags with that thing, and reinsertion is basically an impossibility. So yeah, we can go buy other stuff, and a lot of people obviously have, but you may find that you like the features of the TAAPs, you just don't want to put up with the TAAPs. So what if we took those features and we put them into something modern? Haha, yeah, psych, you know, that's the whole point of the video. Trex Arms made it. The tactical retarded, no.
The TRAAP, as probably obvious by now with me saying the word TRAAP more times in this video than in my entire life to this point, is the Trex Arms take on the tactical assault panel. Retain what makes it good, jettison what makes it bad. Right out of the get-go, it's just a bunch of features that are expected on modern rigs, and of course the TRAAP has it. We get a much nicer integrated harness system with some nice quality of life things like Velcros to integrate PTT. The back strap is the same one from the Trex Arms Floppy Boy chest rig. I'm personally not a fan of this style. Too much plastic back here for my liking for a piece of kit that will mostly be used with a large ruck, though generally with all chest rigs, even the one with good back straps, I tend to disengage those when I'm wearing a ruck with a large kidney strap. But my friends actually do say they like the elastic component because it allows you to breathe a lot better, or at least less constricted, so yeah, your mileage may vary here. Though I do notice, because this is really set up to be kind of a set and forget without easy quick slide adjustment with like a tri-glide or something, if your size varies throughout the day, for example, you maybe start with a light jacket and then upscale, you're going to blow out that elastic pretty fast. We have a rear-facing panel so you can run danglers, dump pouches, or I guess both. The magazine pouch retains the nice sizing, so we have 5.56 and AK mag compatibility, which means also the 5.56 mags are going to reinsert a lot easier as it's a hair oversized, so you can kind of rock them in, allowing for one-hand inserts, assuming you can get past the elastic retainers. Not quite as nice as the Beast chest rig sizing. Granted, that one is sized for 308s, but this is actually pretty decent. There's also Velcro in the side of all of these, allowing for the attachment of like sort of flaps, much like Trex Arms' other chest rig. Slight missed opportunity here. Could have been Velcro on both sides on the inside, allowing for plastic inserts of old, you know, like the Haley Strategic used to have, which is actually my favorite style of magazine inserts, but, you know, nothing nowadays uses it, so kind of a missed opportunity there. The actual build quality is leagues better than the TAAPs. The TAAPs is notorious for having inconsistent stitching and sometimes having misaligned PALS webbing. Is it tolerable? Yeah, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but you look at this thing and you can tell this is a step above what the TAAPs does, right? Paying a shitload of money, the thing better look good. The rear side is where much of the influence is obvious. We keep the rear-facing side panels and the map pouch, but it's done much more elegantly. The map pouch is also way better done, and it's nicely tucked away kind of within the actual rig itself, which is one of those features that are exceedingly rare in modern rigs, holding maps that is, and it's desirable for those that want it, typically soldiers that do this for a living, and it's why I've been told some people still cling to the TAAPs. On the front, we get a modernized generic PALS panel. Thankfully, that has been reduced slightly in overall width, so we go from 6 mags to about 4 mags wide, though we still retain the hybrid slots on the far sides. Interestingly enough, with the TRAAPs, those far sides, while able to hold 4 magazines total, are so far deep around your chest that almost no one puts anything in there, or they put soft stuff in there. Putting magazines in there, incredibly hot spotty, for the lack of a better term. Because this thing is a lot shorter by the removing of a magazine, you actually find it's far more comfortable to put magazines in here. So that means in practice, the TRAAPs holds the same amount of magazines as the TRAAPs rig. Unless you want to be miserable, then you can overload a TRAAPs and hold the ludicrous plus 10 magazines. So is the TRAAPs worth it? Compared to the TRAAPs, if you use your gear a lot and highly value comfort, then yeah, there's a lot of improvements here. How about compared to the rest of the market? Well, who knows? We can look at a number of other options to get a rough idea. There's the Velocity System Hybrid, which I'm a big fan of, $187. Does come with pouches, it is notably smaller, which might be a good thing, right? The Vel System Pusher is $240, roughly the same size on the nose for pricing, but we lose the admin pouch, the rear-facing panels, and the large side pockets, which I find very convenient. The Bees rig is what I'm using right now, also comes with a harness, $140 hairs. And it's probably the most budget-minded option, as weird as that sounds, though not by nearly as much when you consider how much smaller it is and thinner it is. It also lacks all those aforementioned pouches. Parachuter makes something very similar, same deal as Bees, cheaper, a lot cheaper, lacks many of the pouches, it's far more minimalist. Tactical Tailor, Scout rig, a little cheaper, but once again, a lot more of a trim form factor. And that's mostly about it. TRAAPs is expensive, but so is everything else American made in this form factor and size. Welcome to nylon gear in 2024, bros.
As soon as we enter the realm of, Chinese made, yeah, there's a Condor, basically a salt panel style thing for about $40. What is that? 6 times less than a TRAAPs rig? Yeah, so from the perspective of value and diminishing returns, yeah, of course the Condor wins on every single front compared to every single other chest rig, as does most Chinese-made gear. Now, I think there is a time and a place to buy Chinese-made gear, especially where that Chinese-made gear is like 99% as good, or in some cases better, than Western equivalents. But as a user of Condor gear in my formative years of my firearms experiments, I mean, you get what you pay for, right? They wear out really fast. But obviously that's a whole nother discussion, and we're going to leave that out today. So, in conclusion, basically the same as my other chest rig video.
It's priced probably a hair high, but not incredibly unreasonably. I would recommend buying this if the parts that you see on it are exactly what you want. If you're just going to shove pouches on the outside and ignore all of the inside pouches, kind of like how I did, then yeah, you're probably overpaying a bit, right? There are other chest rigs that do all of that without the pouches on the inside, and you save a little bit of money, weight, and bulk. For those that like what you're seeing here, even if we ignore the, ooh, brother, modern TRAAPs, it's a perfectly servable, large form factor, panel-style chest rig, and there's not quite anything like it. It's very usable right out of the gate, like the TRAAPs, completely stock, assuming that's the right word, because we have those 2 extra pouches that can fit medical and a radio, and the side mag pouches are probably not going to be used for mags for most people, and you can put more bullshit in there, allowing you to run it pretty slick. From there, you can, obviously put pouches on the outside to your desires. Anyways, that's that. I've said TRAAP more times than I ever cared to say in a lifetime. I'll see you gents later.
I wonder why my dog's been so beggy lately.
Unless she does another trick. What trick do you know? Sit pretty just a little bit. I know you're tired. Oh my gosh.